What's going on, everybody? It's Terry Duran, and today I'm not going to be giving advice. I just wanted to share a little story with y'all on how I decided that I would end up writing my first novel, Game Recognized Game. I'm not your typical author. I didn't grow up always writing or with a notebook in my hand or anything like that. I just happen to have a couple unique skills that made it possible for me to write a book. I type really fast, I'm really creative, and I come up with realistic scenarios. So when I wrote Game Recognized Game, I started out with 5 chapters, and I wrote it. I was at a job during training, and the training was boring. So I had a notebook in front of me, so I decided, hey, I'm just going to see what happened if I started writing a story. And I would let my friends check it out and get their feedback from it. And the way that I saw them responding to it, it kind of piqued my interest. Like, man, they're really treating this like it's a real life person or a real scenario. So I wrote the first 5 chapters of the book when I was living in Louisiana, and that was all I wrote. Fast forward, I moved to Houston. I'm working in a call center doing debt collection, and we would talk on the phone all day, but they would allow us to bring in books to read. So I would bring in Zane books, Eric Jerome Dickey, Michael Bays, different author books. And when I was finished reading them, I would pass them to my coworker next to me. Well, one day in just casual conversation, it came up that I started writing a book. And so she's like, man, print that whole out, bring it in, so let me check it out. So I was like, cool. That night I printed it out. Next morning, first thing I do is set it on her desk. I log in, get on the phone. I'm on the phone with a customer. About 30 minutes later, she's, how the hell you only bring me 5 chapters to read? This is effed up and I can't, she's literally cursing me out while I'm at my job on the phone with a real customer. And so it had me like, damn, she's really reacting to this seriously. So it actually motivated me. That night when I got home after my wife went to sleep, I wrote chapter 6. Next day I come, drop chapter 6 on her. Next day, drop chapter 7. And so by the end of the week, I think I had like 9 or 10 chapters done, right? Well, what started happening is the book, the preview started getting circulated around the workplace. And I'm talking about, it's probably a couple hundred people that work on the floor. And so it was just getting passed from person to person. And they're reading the chapters and, it's the talk in the lunchroom and things like that. Well, somebody at the job started a sexual survey. It was a piece of notebook paper with about 20 questions on it. Have you ever had sex with more than one person in 24 hours? What's the longest you've ever given head? Or just, any type of question that you could think of, it was on this list. And so what people would do is they'd take another sheet of paper, write their name at the top, and then they would actually answer all 20 questions. So people would get a stack of papers. They would read the preview to my novel first. Then they would read all the responses that other people put on the surveys. And then they would add their own survey to the stack and pass it to somebody else. This went on probably about 3-4 weeks maybe. And I'm talking about it's a stack of probably about 70, 80 papers now. You know what I'm saying? That's how many surveys is in a stack. Some idiot decides to leave the stack of papers on their desk when they went to lunch. A manager takes it off their desk. So now it's panic and we in crisis mode at work. Because we thinking, man, how the hell are we going to explain to our husbands and wives that we lost our job over a sex survey? You know what I'm saying? Some teenage stuff. And so what ended up happening was it was so many people that they would have had to fire. It was too many people to keep the company running. So what they did was they actually pulled us into the conference room. They changed the policy on being able to read and pass notes and things like that at work. And they let everybody off with the warning. So to me, it was like, man, I got people in here that are making over $100,000 doing something that could get them fired off of my imagination or some stuff that I made up. And so it planted the seed in my head, well, if they'll react like this to 10 chapters, how will they react to a whole book? And that was kind of the thought process that I had when I actually wrote my first novel. That's why the cover is so unique and standoutish the way that it is, the picture that I selected. And why the story is written the way it is written. It's all first person, and you can actually kind of vicariously live through the characters, even if you've never lived that type of lifestyle in real life. So if those of you that have not checked it out, you can go to my website, terryduranbooks.com, sign up for my mailing list. It'll email you the first 5 chapters of the book so you can check out for yourself. The first 5 chapters that I'm talking about are the exact same 5 that were in my story. And if you actually order a copy, it actually includes the free shipping. So make sure you follow me on social media. I do a little bit more than just give advice, but I also take your submissions to your questions or your topics you want me to discuss or give my 2 cents on. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Terry Duran. Submit your questions to me. I'll do my best to respond. Thanks for tuning in.